definitely speak for themselves. And you see these men in their 90s now with still such, strength and pride and honor in their countenance. It makes you proud to not only be an African American, but an American. Because it really is an American story. And I remember the first time I heard about the Tuskegee Airmen was in 1995 during the HBO movie. And I was, 20-something years old. And I read it and got emotional reading the script, but also I got pissed off. It was like, here I am, finished my education. I didn't even know these men existed. And I think that was fueled my career to move on to movies like Men of Honor and Master Chief Carl Bashir and Pearl Harbor and Nora, because I know the kids, a lot of times, the ones that are blessed here to go to college, and get that education, that's wonderful, but the majority of, especially inner city kids, they don't get this opportunity. So they go to movies, and they're celebrating Tarzan and all these other people and say, those are my heroes, but there's not many black faces. But the reality is that there are African American heroes among us.
Yes.
You have the distinction of really being the war actor of our generation. Very, very quickly that has happened. That's really remarkable. But playing at Tuskegee Airmen, how special has that been for you personally?
Well, it's the first time I had met them on the set. Again, it was in 1995, but on this movie, because this encompassed, the first movie dealt with the racism that they had to deal with the Tuskegee Airmen, and then we had a smaller budget. So they had time to tell the scope of their contribution to the war effort. But when we were in Prague, we were on this Russian air base, and we were sitting there, and they just recreated this whole air base with all these white faces. And to have these men walk up to you and start to tell their stories, we wept, man. We wept every day. Because as an actor, you want to try to find a little iota of truth in what you do. And when you find that, you want to hang on to it and let it fuse everything that your character does. And these men, as you can see, their presence just evades your soul and it's been special. And it's so funny because every time we've had 30-something of these screenings, and there's always an airman that come up and introduce themselves. And every day it's a blessing. And to see the ones that we met today, it's a true blessing.
I've heard more than once or twice, why did you do this? Because you're a white guy, you had this tremendously successful career, you didn't have to do this. He's got more soul than any of us. But why was this film important for you to make?
Well, George first told me about it in 1990, and to be honest, I had never heard of the Tuskegee Airmen. But it was one of those things that, if you're a producer, you're always looking for a great story to tell, always a great story to make. And this was such a no-brainer. Once he described who the men were, what the adversity that they had to get through, what they eventually were able to accomplish in Europe, and then, of course, the tragedy that befell them once they came back to the United States, to a country that didn't care. That was such an overpowering story, and it took us about 23 years to actually get this all off the ground. Part of the problem was that it's such a big story. You have like 3 films. You have the Tuskegee problem, the racism that they went through. Then you have the action-adventure part when they first go sent over to Africa, but they're not allowed to fly. It was only until really 1943, 44, where we were losing about 50, 60 bombers a day, the British and the Americans, which were about 500, 600 kids a day, that actually they got their first shot. And to see this extraordinary group of people, including the grounds crew and everything, actually fight for a country that really did not want them flying to them. That was just such an amazing story to me, and that was something that we all just jumped on board with.
This is a companion documentary, Double Victory, which Cuba, you narrated. Obviously, Rick, you were a little bit involved in Double Victory.
But it was actually, I had as much fun doing the documentary because what we got to do was we knew that this story, the action adventure part, because